Yeah, that's crazy. It's a big number, yes.
And then, like you said,
that's right.
There's already, and I want to get into the college recruiting thing. I know the rule change just came out, but you already have, class of 2020, they're only sophomores in high school. You already have 31 college commitments, and all the way up to the class of 2022. If I'm doing my math right, are those just 8th grade girls? You got 4 already committed to college, right? Wow.
Right. Yeah, I'm not saying that's good. It's just the way the system worked before today. Today the rule changed. So
yeah, let's talk about that. The rule change. The way I understand it now, Division I athletes cannot be recruited until the summer of their junior year. Official visits. Can you take? I'm sure you've studied this rule a little closer than I have. Can you take our audience through the rule change for NCAA Division I recruiting?
Yeah, so they made a couple of really important changes, and keeping in mind that verbal commitments, oral commitments aren't really real from the NCAA. So when we say a 8th grader or 9th grader commits, the softball world recognizes that, but the NCAA does not. And so what's been happening is over the last 10 or 11 years, that with 7th and 8th graders have actually been getting recruited by colleges. Colleges are watching 14 and under and 12 and under softball. And, as an example, Florida has 2 6th graders who are committed to the school. So, and when you say it out loud, it actually sounds fun,
that is crazy, isn't it?
Yeah.
We know girls develop quicker
ridiculous.
Than boys, but 6th grade? No, come on.
No. There's really absolutely no reason for it. And, it has gotten pretty ludicrous, and there's been, as long as I've been involved in the game at 18U level, there's been discussion about how to slow this down, how to get it under control, and I think finally enough important D1 coaches got engaged and, made some really hard and fast rules that they sent up to the NCAA. So essentially now, the short version is there can be no recruiting discussion whatsoever until September 1st of their junior year for softball. Now, it's different for different sports, but for softball, until September 1st of junior year. Another change was that official visits could only be had in their senior year. Now you'll be able to do official visits as juniors, which will save a lot of these athletes a lot of money because they won't have to make the visits on their own. The school can pay for the official visit as opposed to the athletes having to pay for the unofficial visit, which had been happening. And unofficial visits are unlimited because they essentially don't exist. Where official visits are limited. And so that will force people, I think, to marshal the resources a little better. It also will give these players a chance to just relax and play the game, enjoy the game, have fun, and develop, have some idea. I mean, the college coaches are actually making decisions on which kids are going to go play at their school before I made decisions about which kids are going to play on my team.
Wow.
Right?
That's crazy, isn't it?
They would commit 14U players who I'm looking at going, I don't know if they can ever play for me. Right? They commit 16U players, and I'm saying, I don't know. We'll see. Right? But I don't have to make decisions on them, because the college coach did. I didn't have to. So at least now it puts it back in the correct order. And it just stops the farcical nature of the thing where you're looking at a 13-year-old and trying to project them against 22 and 23-year-olds. I mean, there's nothing in life where you can do that. I mean, there are the outliers, right? There are prodigies and things like that, but, there's no 13-year-old that can compete with a 22-year-old senior in the Pac-12 or the SEC. I mean, it just isn't one. And it really has, hopefully, it'll create its own set of challenges. But it has really returned things to kind of back the way they were about 10 or 11 years ago, or at least closer to that. And, hopefully will calm things down, at least for a while. We'll see. Again, there's going to be some unintended consequences because no one knows, how it's actually going to manifest itself. But it should be okay, and it should be better.
Hey, Kevin, one thing I want to ask you, those are some great rules. I think we all agree, much needed. Take a lot of the pressure off the kid and the parent. I know social media has played a big role in some of this recruiting, with, the videos and Twitter and everything of that nature. But why have they not changed the rules for Division II athletes?
Well, the assumption, I think, is, and we'll see if it's true, again, one of the potential unintended consequences, right, is the assumption is that a player who thinks that they can play in D1 is not going to commit to a D2 before they can even explore the D1 window. So that means that if I have I have an inflated view of myself, and I think I'm a big-time D1 player, but I'm not, I'm going to explore those D1 options, after September 1st, and then the D2s will still be there for you. And again, that's part of the challenge. It's going to shrink the window for mid-majors for recruiting. It's going to shrink the window for D2s, and it makes it even tighter for D3s, NAIAs, and JUCOs. And so they'll be scrambling a lot more. The mid-majors loved this early recruiting because the big schools would clear off a bunch of the kids, and the mid-majors would have access to the rest of the kids pretty early. So it made their job a little bit easier. Now they're going to have to wait until players make choices and then try to move on them. Otherwise, they spend a bunch of time and energy on players who they'll never get. So I think the assumption is that D2s and D3s, that schools can move whenever they want, but I don't think that the players wouldn't necessarily pull the trigger. Now, that won't 100% be the case, but it will, I would not expect, the D2s are recruiting a bunch of kids out from underneath D1. That's not going to happen. Primarily, it won't happen because the players and their parents' egos are too big.
Hey, getting back to the field, I know you're known as a great teacher of the game and focus on the fundamentals. What are some of the things you can share with both the player and the coaches out there when it gets down to just the fundamentals of the game, both the mental side as well as the physical side of softball?
Yeah, the mental side is, I think, the most important side. Like everything in life, it comes down to your attitude and your approach, right? And things we can control, our attitude and our effort. And so if we do control those, we give max effort all the time. And we control our attitude, which is, control the things you can control and stay positive and just attack the next pitch. Those are, I think, the really critical pieces to being a successful athlete. I mean, if you don't have all the God-given gifts, if you can, overcome some of those things with great attitude and great effort, I'd rather have that player than someone who doesn't understand those things but who's really, really talented because you can't coach them. So that's first. And then fundamentals, I think what happens is I see is a lot of coaches give up on the fundamentals where they say, okay, that's good enough or that's close enough, and we just don't do that. We're not being perfect. We continue to push for perfection and explain that. And I think part of the challenge for most is they're not precise enough and they're not concise enough, and they don't demand a level of expertise that is acceptable, and you can demand it without yelling and screaming or, being anything but positive, right? I primarily say, hey, is good enough okay with you, right? If good enough is okay with you, then we're not in the right place. And they usually respond to that. I rarely have a player say to me, yeah, good enough, that's good enough for me. And I say, hey, we can do better. We can be closer to perfect, right? Keep working on that. Don't we want to be closer to perfect? The response I usually get is, absolutely, I want to be closer to perfect. Oh, great, here's how you do that, and here's why you want to do that, so that when it matters most, we make a play. The fundamentals are critical. I think what I see is that people don't study them very much, and so they don't really understand them, and they don't have a good eye for them. I picked up the first time I ever saw a fast-pitch softball game was 1997. But from there, I got serious and began to study it. And I really enjoy it. That makes it easier. And I definitely have a way of teaching that's different than some. but I have a cadre of coaches who are bought in and believe it and understand it and have begun to mimic it out there so that we're all on the same page. So I think precision is critical, and that's something that I don't think people harp on enough. And then, attitude and effort are the key pieces to making a good player.
Well, Kevin, you bring a lot of value to the audience, focus on staying in the present. I see a lot of kids that want to dwell on, what happened last game or last inning, or be thinking ahead of that big rivalry matchup with their opposing team that they lost to in the last tournament. It's real important to just stay in the present and focus on, this inning, this pitch. What would you share with the players out there that are listening right now about that mindset?
Yeah, I really enjoy that part of the game and helping players figure that out and then practice it, because it's not a normal behavior and it's not a behavior that you can do well if you don't practice it like anything else. So it's very important that they know how to help themselves stay in the moment. And one of the things I talk to the players about a lot, and games really bring up the opportunity to talk about it, practices do sometimes, but games more, is to make sure that they are constantly taking stock of their own physiology. What is my heart rate doing? What is my breathing doing? Calm myself down, clear my head, get in the moment right here. The way you do that is you calm yourself down, get heart rate under control. And heart rate and breathing are easy to get under control if you're not worried about what happened in the past and what's going to happen in the future. It doesn't matter if you're in the first pitch of the game or the last pitch of the game. The focus is exactly the same, right? If you're a pitcher, there's only one thing you can control, and that's aggressively hit my spot. That's the only thing you can control. So it doesn't matter when or why or anything. It doesn't matter if the kid just hit a home run. It doesn't matter if you just walked the kid, if your team kicked the ball and made a big error. It doesn't matter. The only thing you can do, pitcher, is aggressively hit your spot, right? And the batter has the same analogous situation. The fielder has the exact same situation, right? Same kind of mindset. I can only control this, and so that's all I'm focused on, right? And you can't stay focused on it continuously, so you stay focused on it for 10 seconds, and then you relax, think about what's going to go on next, take a deep breath, and then you focus again for another 10 seconds, and then rock and roll. And so it's that physiology piece that's critical, and I do the same for myself. I'm constantly taking stock of my own heart rate, and, what are my emotions doing? I'm trying to eliminate my emotions from the game. Because if as a leader of the team, your heart rate's going up and you're acting wacky, well, guess what's going to happen to the team? They're going to do the same. But if you're calm and under control, and at least outwardly, and demonstrate that, you feel good about the situation, it's okay, things are going poorly at the moment, but we'll get it under control. I will never forget, we were playing the Firecrackers on TV in Colorado, so it's a really good team, we're a decent team, and we're so excited to play this game on TV. And this is not a kind of a rookie group of players. Our team is a veteran group, who've been here before, played this team before. And in the top of the first inning, or the bottom of first, because they were home team, the bottom of first inning, it was 4-0. They had 4-0 with bases loaded and nobody out. And we hadn't been making a bunch of errors. They just were chopping the ball on the ground and running. And our players were getting embarrassed. We were embarrassed on the field, and I could tell they were getting emotional. I could see red faces. They were so emotional out there.
Well, Kevin, definitely handling failures is, we hear it all the time from the baseball side, as I'm sure is the same in the softball side, is how, a young group of girls handles that failure, the defeat, and picking themselves back up. That's probably one of the hardest things for younger players to deal with.
Yeah, it is, and I think it's because we don't give them the tools, right? There's actual physical things, there's emotional, and it's things you have to practice, right? It's things you have to practice. And I think when we give them the tools, it becomes easy for them, and then it becomes second nature. But more importantly, they take those tools to the classroom. They take those tools. The SAT test, the ACT test. They take them to their college. They take them to work. They take them to their interpersonal relationships, right? Where, you and I can have a discussion, even if we don't agree, but we don't get you don't get emotional and scream and yell. We can listen to each other.